concerned about the delays at airports, and how do you see the shutdown ending?
Oh, sure. I mean, they're all Democrat delays. There are delays at the airport. That's standard. And again, this is something that every day we put forth a bill. It's just a continuation. It's a very simple thing to sign and very simple to do. And I really think that these are people that I think they have nothing to lose. They have a party that's out of control. They have no leader. Nobody knows who the leader is. I look at people with very low IQs like Crockett, this woman Crockett. I never met her, but she's a low IQ individual. I look at AOC talking about how if they want to negotiate, they can come to my office. She's not in that position to do that. And who the hell is she to say that? And then I watch Nancy Pelosi not knowing what to do. I watch their leadership. Look, Schumer is petrified of primary because he's not going to win probably against anybody in a primary. You know, Schumer did the right thing, but he handled it badly originally a year ago. He did probably the right thing, but he handled it badly. I think Schumer's incapable of making a deal. They are a mess. They're a party that has no leadership. They have, and they have no policy. You know, we have great, I think we have great leadership, but we also have great policy. We have strong borders. We have no men and women's sports. I mean, basic things. We're not going to take your child away and change the sex of your child. We're not going to do things like that. What they're doing to the country is so incredible. And they got away with it with all their woke crap, and now it's stopped. And we have a country that's based on common sense and strength and intelligence. I mean, we have the United States of America, and I say it all the time. Other leaders have told me this. Mark hasn't yet, but I think he would. A year ago, we were a dead country, and now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. Maybe Canada. I'll give Canada, but because I do like Canada. But you know, we're the hottest country in the world right now. There's never been a country that has the kind of money coming into it. There's never been anything like this. There has never been a country that if you take $1 trillion, that would be unbelievable. We're going to have over $20 trillion invested in this country. There's never been anything like what you're seeing, and it's based on good policy and common sense and leadership.
Okay, so AOC just absolutely destroyed Trump's entire shutdown strategy, and honestly, she's not wrong. While everyone else is treating Trump like he's this all-powerful force who always gets what he wants, AOC is out here saying, actually, he's bluffing, he's weak, and we need to stop acting scared of him. And the best part? She's backing it up with receipts. So Trump's government shutdown is in full swing. Federal workers aren't getting paid. Services are being cut. And Republicans are trying to use this as leverage to get what they want on healthcare and spending. But AOC is saying Democrats need to hold the line, not blink first and call Trump's bluff. Because according to her, Trump is way weaker than he appears, and Republicans know it. If you want sharp political analysis that cuts through the BS, and let's be real, AOC is one of the few politicians who actually speaks plainly about what's happening, hit that subscribe button right now. Because we're about to break down why AOC thinks Trump's shutdown strategy is falling apart and why she's telling Democrats to stand firm. All right, let me give you AOC's main argument. She posted on X saying Trump is far weaker than he appears, and that congressional Republicans are totally aware that their approval ratings are tanking. She said, and this is a direct quote, they are underwater across the board, and they know it. What they depend on is the illusion of authority, the belief in inevitability, expecting us to concede prematurely. Think about that for a second. AOC is saying Trump's entire strategy relies on Democrats believing he's more powerful than he actually is. He wants them to think the shutdown is inevitable, that they have to cave to his demands, that resistance is futile. But she's calling that out as psychological warfare, not actual power. And she's describing Trump's threats to use the shutdown as political leverage as a bluffing tactic. Basically, Trump is trying to scare Democrats into giving him what he wants before negotiations even really begin. And AOC is saying, nope, we're not falling for it. She's been repeatedly urging Democrats not to blink first in negotiations. She said, and this is important, they want us to blink first and we have too much to save. Protecting people is too important a task for us to give up before anything even begins. That's AOC framing this as a fight worth having, not a fight to avoid. Now, let's talk about the specific healthcare demands. Republicans are proposing to extend Affordable Care Act subsidies for just 1 year. Sounds reasonable on the surface, right? Keep healthcare subsidies going while they figure out a longer term deal. But AOC absolutely tore that proposal apart. At a CNN town hall, she mocked the GOP's 1 year extension idea, saying, "I will not settle for a paltry 1 year extension of the ACA." She called it a political maneuver designed to dodge consequences in the midterms. Basically, Republicans want to kick the can down the road past the 2026 elections so they don't have to face voters while healthcare is getting cut. And AOC is aligned with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on this. They're pushing for permanent solutions, not short term band aids that just delay the inevitable fight. That's a significant political stance because it means Democrats are willing to let the shutdown continue rather than accept a deal they think is garbage. So let's dig deeper into AOC's critique of how Republicans are handling this whole situation because she's not just attacking the policy, she's attacking their entire approach to governing. AOC blasted House Republicans for refusing to work and just idling and talking amongst themselves. She said, and I love this quote, "I've never encountered individuals who detest work as much as they do." That's not subtle. That's AOC straight up saying Republicans are lazy and incompetent, and she's insisting that Republican leaders must engage with Democrats to resolve the shutdown. Which sounds obvious, right? But apparently it's not happening. Republicans are trying to negotiate amongst themselves, figure out what they want, and then just present Democrats with demands. And AOC is saying that's not how this works. The deeper point she's making is about the nature of the shutdown itself. On TikTok and social media, AOC has been highlighting that the Republicans' shutdown is going to devastate the American people. She's not mincing words. She's directly blaming Republicans for the pain that federal workers and ordinary Americans are feeling. But here's where it gets really interesting. AOC is arguing that the shutdown allows Trump to continue dismantling the federal workforce. Think about that strategy. If you want to shrink government, one way to do it is to shut it down, not pay workers, make their jobs miserable, and force people to quit. That's not explicitly what Trump says he's doing, but AOC is calling out what she sees as the real agenda, and she's framing this moment as an opportunity for Democrats to halt this madness, not an opportunity to compromise or find middle ground, an opportunity to stop Trump's agenda entirely. That's a much more confrontational approach than Democrats usually take. Now, let's talk about why AOC's framing is resonating, especially with progressives and younger voters. Because she's not treating this like a normal budget negotiation. She's treating it like a fundamental fight over what government should do and who it should serve. When she talks about protecting working Americans, about refusing to accept cynical bargains, about calling out Republican bluffing, that's the kind of rhetoric that energizes the Democratic base. It's clear, it's confrontational, and it presents a stark choice between two visions of government. The question is whether the rest of the Democratic Party is willing to follow AOC's lead. Because what she's proposing, holding firm, refusing short term deals, letting the shutdown continue until Republicans cave, that's a risky strategy. If Democrats miscalculate and the public blames them for the shutdown's continuation, that's politically devastating. But AOC is betting that the public will blame Republicans and Trump. And she might be right, because polling generally shows that Americans blame whichever party is in power when shutdowns happen. And Republicans control the White House and both chambers of Congress. So it's hard for them to blame Democrats for not being able to keep the government open. Before we get into what happens next with the shutdown, if AOC's take is resonating with you, or even if you completely disagree with her, go ahead and hit that like button and drop a comment. Do you think AOC is right that Trump is bluffing and weaker than he appears? Or do you think Democrats are making a mistake by refusing to compromise? All right, so where does this shutdown actually go? Because we've got Democrats, led by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and progressive voices saying they won't blink first. And we've got Republicans and Trump insisting they're not going to back down on their demands. Someone has to cave eventually, right? Well, maybe. Or maybe we're in for a prolonged shutdown that lasts weeks or even months, because both sides have dug in, and neither wants to be seen as the one who blinked first. That's exactly the dynamic AOC is describing. Both sides in a standoff waiting to see who gives up. The human cost of this standoff is enormous. Federal workers aren't getting paychecks. Services are being cut. National parks are closing. Government contractors are losing money. And the longer this goes, the worse it gets. These are real people's lives being disrupted because politicians can't reach a deal. AOC is highlighting that real world impact, but she's also arguing it's worth enduring short term pain to prevent long term damage to healthcare and government services. That's a tough sell for the federal workers who aren't getting paid, but it's consistent with her broader political philosophy about fighting for systemic change rather than incremental fixes. Now, let's talk about Trump's position in all this, because AOC is arguing he's weaker than he appears, but is that actually true? Trump has survived multiple impeachments, countless scandals, legal challenges that would sink any other politician. He's shown he can weather political storms that would destroy normal politicians. But AOC is making a different point. She's saying Trump's support is softer than it looks, that Republican approval ratings are underwater, that the illusion of strength is just that, an illusion. And if Democrats call his bluff and refuse to cave, Trump might be the one who has to back down. There's some evidence for this. Trump's approval ratings have been declining. Republicans are facing pressure from constituents about the shutdown, and there are signs of fractures within the GOP over how to handle the situation. We've talked about Rand Paul and Thomas Massie breaking with Trump on other issues. Maybe more Republicans are getting tired of his tactics. The 2026 midterms are looming large over all of this. Republicans know that if the shutdown is still going in a few months, they're going to face enormous backlash from voters. AOC is betting that pressure will force Republicans to cave before Democrats do. But here's the risk for Democrats. If the shutdown drags on and Americans decide both parties are equally to blame, that doesn't help them either. The both sides narrative is politically dangerous when you're trying to hold firm on principle. You need the public to clearly see who's responsible. That's why AOC is so focused on messaging. She's constantly going on TikTok, posting on social media, doing town halls, all to make sure people understand that Republicans are the ones refusing to negotiate and causing this shutdown. She's fighting the PR battle as hard as the legislative battle. The healthcare fight is particularly important politically. The ACA has become increasingly popular over the years. Most Americans don't want to see it dismantled. So if Democrats can frame this as we're fighting to protect your health care and Republicans are trying to cut it, that's a winning message. But Republicans are trying to flip that script. They're saying Democrats are being unreasonable by refusing a 1 year extension. They're saying Democrats care more about political points than keeping the government open. The battle over public perception is as important as the actual policy fight. Look, the bottom line is this. AOC is calling Trump's bluff and urging Democrats to stand firm on healthcare and government funding. She's arguing Trump is weaker than he appears, that his strategy relies on intimidation rather than actual power, and that Democrats can win if they refuse to cave prematurely. Whether she's right is going to be determined in the next few weeks. If Republicans blink first and agree to Democratic demands, AOC looks like a genius who correctly read the political dynamics. If Democrats cave under pressure, AOC's strategy failed, and her more moderate colleagues will say, "We told you so." But what's clear is that AOC is setting the terms of debate for progressives and a significant chunk of the Democratic base. She's making the case for confrontation over compromise, for principle over pragmatism, for long term wins over short term stability. That's a fundamentally different approach than Democrats have typically taken. And it's resonating with a lot of voters who are tired of watching their party compromise away its principles and get nothing in return. So here's my final question for you. Do you think AOC's hardline strategy is the right approach? Should Democrats refuse to compromise and force Republicans to cave? Or do you think both parties need to find middle ground and end the shutdown? And do you buy AOC's argument that Trump is weaker than he appears? Or do you think she's underestimating him? Drop your honest take in the comments because this shutdown fight is defining how Democrats are going to approach the rest of Trump's presidency. If AOC's strategy works, expect more confrontation and less compromise. If it fails, expect Democrats to go back to their old playbook of trying to find deals. And make sure you're subscribed because this shutdown is ongoing and developing daily. Every day brings new negotiations, new public statements, new pressure points. You need to stay informed about what's actually happening, not just the partisan talking points. AOC is making a big bet on her strategy. Let's see if it pays off.